Hey, this is Matt. Once again, welcome back to the videos of another paid request, this time from Andrew. Thank you so much for that. And for those interested in requesting any type of videos, topics, reactions, commentaries, what have you, could be a tier list, a re-review, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. And this is for the 1990 film Masters of Menace, which, again, a film I've never heard of. To be perfectly honest, as one guy said it, I forget who, this felt like more like a failed TV pilot than a movie. And I can see why I never heard of this film before, why it's probably stuck on VHS, because I didn't think this film was that good. I didn't think the film was that funny. A lot of the Second City comedy troupe actors from Chicago, they're in the film. That's probably why, like, throughout the movie you got cameos by James Belushi, John Candy, and Dan Aykroyd, and even George Wendt from the TV show Cheers. Pretty much the gist of it is you have those bikers called the Roadmasters, and they're at a trial, and ultimately they get a 3-year probation. Now the lead biker guy is David Rashi. He starred in that TV show Sledgehammer, which was a parody of Dirty Harry. He was also in Cobra in this film. He was the photographer working with Brigitte Nielsen. He's pretty laid-back leader of this group. Among the other groups in the biker gang, you have Squiddy from Laverne and Shirley, who plays a character named Stuart. You have Lee Veen, who was in the punk band Fear. I remember him from this movie with Ken Wall called The Taker of Beverly Hills. He was one of the bad guys, the dirty cops. I think he's the guy who Ken Wall... It's been a while since I've seen the film, where Ken Wall takes the bomb and throws like a football to the back of Lee Veen's truck. And he's like, "God damn it, Boomer!" And the truck blows up. I think that's Lee Veen. He's in this. David Bowe. He was the guy who was Weird Al Yankovic's buddy in UHF. He's in this. But yeah, this part of this gang, and they goof off, and it's trying to be like a lame version of Animal House in a way. And the lawyer is played by Lance Kinsey, and I recognize him. He was the guy, was his name Proctor? He's a guy in Police Academy, where, especially in the later films, I think he was introduced in, was it 3? He was, you have the bad guy, and then he's the subordinate. I think he was in 3 and 4, and then, I think he was in 3 through 6. And I believe that's the case. Can't remember if he was in part 2. Yeah, I should know. But anyway, Lance Tansey, if you type in the name Lance Tansey, you go, "Oh, I recognize him," if you've seen Police Academy. So he's able to help them get 3 years probation. And Lance Tansey's a very nerdy guy who's very scared of stuff and meat, and is very, "No, you guys can't do anything illegal. Come on, this is my first big case." While the bikers, they just, have a party, and they have pate, but it's fucking cat dog food. David Rashi's wife is Catherine Bach, who was Daisy Duke in the TV show Dukes of Hazzard. And she's always talking about wanting a family, wanting a house, and he keeps brushing her off. Well, one day, David is looking at his bike being fixed up by James Belushi. And the joke is that James Belushi is always working on the bike. He has an eye patch, and he keeps dropping this wrench, almost missing his eye. So you get the idea that's how he lost the first eye. He fixes it. He does the bike with some fuel he has, special fuel. And it's a very silly scene where it's going so fast, there's a side shot of him on the bike, and his legs are up on top as if the bike's going so fast. But it looks like an SNL skit where it's like the bike's just standing still and he's like, oh, and someone is lifting his legs up. Very low production values in this movie. Flies off, boom, Belushi dies. So they want to go to Vegas and to his family and get him buried, but they're not supposed to leave the state. Meanwhile, the bad guy of our film says, I want these guys arrested. He has a subordinate, you go watch them. And if they do anything illegal, tell me so I can get them arrested and it'll help my political career. And then just little hygiene stuff that happens. It just really wasn't that clever or funny or energetic. They go to a strip club, but there's no nudity. Which feels like an oxymoron to me. There's a bit of a bar fight where one woman says, I'm pregnant, and Daisy Dukes herself says, oh, congrats, and then punches the pregnant lady. The guy named Horny Hank, who I swear he's trying to sound like John Candy. He's one of the guys from the Second City. And I don't know what else he's done, but like I said, he is trying to sound like John Candy. Maybe not on purpose, but that's what it comes off as. And he's enchanted by the stripper, and oh, you have fake boobs? Oh, they look real to me. You want to come to Vegas? And she does. And the type of jokes you have in the film, like the bad guy's subordinate is secretly calling. You think it's a sex hotline, but it's an animal sex hotline. Or they go to this seemingly nice buffet, and everybody leaves, and there's a wide shot where everybody leaves like Benny Hill to get to their cars and leave. Or they take food, and there's like a big thing of salad. They just put everything in this big bowl, and they just take the whole bowl. Like, these are the type of jokes. It feels like a lame TV show. These type of jokes. And the acting, like David Rasche, he's just very laid back and blasé. Seemed like he works a lot better in the type of roles like Sledgehammer, with a bit more energy to them. For a split second, when I saw David, I thought it was the guy. There's a fun comedy called Tracks, I think with 2 X's or 3 X's, where it was like a takeoff on cop action movies, but the guy wanted to start a cookie business and kind of making fun of the whole action cop movie. But that was a fun movie, Tracks. I rather enjoyed that one. That one I wish had a DVD or Blu-ray. This one was not the case. Now, before I forget, like, these other people, like John Candy's in the film because he's driving a beer truck. And the joke is that the bikers are sleeping, but they sniff it and they hear the truck and they recognize it's beer because they love beer so much. So they have the stripper riding with one of the guys, and John Candy's looking at her. I thought, is he going to try to do the Chevy Chase National Lampoon's Vacation? Seemed like almost a little bit. Where he's looked over at the hot girl. Yeah, how's it going? And then 1, then 2, then 3 guys jump into the vehicle and keep pushing John Candy out until they ultimately push him out. I'm like, no, John Candy, don't leave. Please come back. You're much needed to get some humor in this comedy. Please, don't leave. Don't leave me. And then he does come back one other time where he's walking down the road and he's tired and all he has is beer. He stopped by the cops. One of them is George Buck Flower, which he was in some John Carpenter films. They Live, Escape from New York. He's a guy who state police finds. Would you get this? President. I always knew if I had this, I'd be president. Not to the chief, la da dee da. Like, that's George Bufflower. I think he was a bum in Back to the Future. He's in this as a sheriff. And pretty much John Candy, he's so drunken out of it, he tries to make up a story that maybe it was aliens that did it. Does bikers would be too unrealistic, or does he so drunk out of his mind? John Candy's trying, but the material doesn't really help him. I think this is pretty much the last time we see John Candy. So our characters, the one of the bad guys got Squiddy from Laverne and Shirley in jail. They break him out. There's a point where they get shot at with someone from a helicopter. And ultimately they see, as they're licking their wounds, George Wendt driving a truck. And he's a buddy and chiropractor to Dan Aykroyd's character, who's pretty much an Evel Knievel type. And he also used to be with the Roadmasters bike gang. So Dan Aykroyd and David know each other. And the joke with Dan Aykroyd is that apparently he has so many screws and so many things he had to fix up from his Evel Knievel stunts on his motorcycle, that each time he moves you hear creaking, each time he moves you hear, all these noises. He always needs George Wendt to twist this or twist that. So however you feel about that joke, because they drive that into the ground. He's in that scene, then we see him another scene later where he helps them get through this barricade, which is the finale of the movie. And in between, how could I forget this? There's a scene where they're getting drunk around a fire, and a bear comes in and starts talking to them. So a guy in a fake bear suit, I think that's James Belushi's voice. It sounds like it. It's pretty much talking to them about, hey David, you should settle down, and your wife wants a house, and you'll always be a roadmaster at heart, but you should settle down. And one guy asks, well, what can I do to be better? You're an idiot, and you need to get a lot of lottery tickets and pray. So however you get out of a talking bear, and then he makes the joke that he takes on a hat, and that he's Smokey the Bear, only you to prevent forest fires, and he leaves. I mean, it was an outlandish... I will admit, I kind of enjoyed the scene, I guess, because it was so outlandish compared to the rest of the movie, that at least it was something, whether good or bad, it was something memorable. Again, bad memorable or good memorable, but it was something memorable in this movie. So then they get to the place and they realize that Belushi's family doesn't live there, so they go to Cincinnati. Then it cuts to David settled down with his wife. They have a kid. The bad guy lost his job. Now he's working, serving food and stuff. And it does one of those things like Animal House, where it goes to each character, text of what happened to them in the future. So yeah, it is trying to be like an Animal House type. I just didn't think the film was that funny. The cast wasn't really that interesting to me. The only time I perked up was when a cameo happened, like a John Candy or a Dan Aykroyd. David Rashi, I mean, his performance is just so laid back, it's almost too laid back. Like, okay, we're just playing it too laid back and cool. It kind of made the whole affair pretty boring. I did this only for maybe you saw this once as a kid, you want to revisit it, and nostalgia, or you're curious to see anything that involves the Second City comedy troupe from out of Chicago, or you need to see any movie with John Candy and Dan Aykroyd and James Belushi in it. But like you said, I mean, you got a guy trying to call for animal sex. You got a guy, group seeing a bear talk. Daisy Duke, Catherine Bob playing a different type of role. If you're a diehard fan of her, you need to see anything with her in it. But I can see why this film didn't really do much of anything, why I'd never heard of it before. But hey, I mean, it's another film in the John Candy filmography that I've seen. It's funny, at one point I did a John Candy marathon, but I must have just skipped this or didn't know about this or couldn't find this, but now I have, so thank you, Andrew. At least there's that. And, yeah. I would say those actors, like George Wendt is wasted. I mean, he's just a chiropractor and he just does this and this. I mean, really anybody could play that role. It just happens to be Norm from Cheers. I don't know. It's on YouTube for free if you want to give it a watch and make up your own mind. Like every movie, make up your own mind. At least you now know it exists. So with that said, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys later. Bye bye.